Good evening, everybody, and welcome to FOJC Radio Sunday Night Live. We are live on a Sunday night. Get the dogs hooked up to the sled tonight because we're going to Greenland. Yeah, that's right. We're going to be going Greenland or bust tonight. And we got to keep moving, or that guy in the dog sled's going to catch up to me and Brian. So we're going to have to keep it frosty and keep it popping. But we are so glad that you all are joining us for the broadcast tonight. This is amazing, the things that are happening in this little crazy world we live in. And we're going to be taking a deep dive into that tonight. And we're really excited to share with you all of the things we've learned about this awesome topic. And Brian, I tell you what, I believe this is my favorite thumbnail of all time. That which I thought in my brain, you made it happen there, and I love it. Great thumbnail, and thank you for being with us this evening on this broadcast.
Yeah, David, I'm looking forward to this one. Welcome everybody to the channel on FOJC. David, with a little bit of redneck ingenuity, man, we can outrun and outdo anybody, my friend. So our team,
That's right.
here comes Greenland. Here comes Greenland at 100 miles an hour tonight. And welcome all walks of life to the channel. I'm looking forward to this one. It's like maybe my top five that we've done here on FOJC. So I cannot wait to jump into Greenland and talk about all the conspiracies around it and the rare minerals and all the other nonsense that's going on with Venezuela. We're going to be talking about a lot of things here tonight. So let's just ride this thing out, Brother David. Let's do a little bobsledding and take off here on the slippery slope of Greenland here, a bust. And David, take us on in here, my friend. I'm looking forward to this one.
All righty. And there has been an agenda here in Greenland for a while. It's well planned out, it's being executed at the highest level. It's just jaw dropping, the things we're going to be talking about this evening. And one of the things here we're going to be talking about here at the start to show that there has been predictive programming involved with this for a while. In 2013, there was a video game that came out called Call to Duty. In this 2013 video game, the United States went to Venezuela and captured Maduro. This was in 2013 when this game came out. And in the scenario, America goes to Venezuela, captures Maduro, and the year in the video game that this took place was 2026. That is absolutely crazy. But how can that be anything, Brian, except predictive programming and their little way of letting people know that, yes, the plan is being executed, the plan is being carried out. But, that is beyond the realm of coincidence for something like that to happen.
I couldn't agree more, David. It makes me think of like R.L. Stein's Goosebumps. Have you seen that new movie that had Jack Black in it? And whatever he written, it would come to life, And I know you talked about that conspiracy column when you did your presentation there, talking about H.P. Lovecraft. And David, it's so mind blowing to say the 12 years because that's when Maduro, he started his presidency there. So it's ironically that these military raids in the plot of the Ghost video game was in 2026. It's a futuristic game. Heck, I even played it back in the day. And what's so ironic about it, Brother David, it also, not only that with the predictive program stance, here's the other chilling part about it, sir, is after that, the 2026 scenario, and throughout the game, it escalates to a full war post 2027 toward the end. It's like parallels and locations and everything. It's just so compelling to me. It's off the charts, David. I mean, where are we at here? It's almost like The Simpsons gone bad kind of thing, or, the Family Guy with Paul Walker. There's so many
like Homer on crack is what we got here.
Homer on crack. But literally, the crack of the abyss is getting ready to open up and swallow a lot of things. I don't know what's going on, but this is like very strange to me that there's comparisons with the video game realm. And it's almost like there's a fallen angel narrative or some type of predictive understanding of knowing this preconceived knowledge and whatever the powers that be to have the tools to integrate with computers and science and alchemy, however all this all collaborates together, black magic, whatever you want to refer to it as. It's very either nefarious in nature, or it reminds me of something that we've talked about recently, the movie Tron. You know, it almost reminds me of the same exact scenario. You know, these things are coming here instead of us going there, about multi-dimensional, interdimensional concepts. It's just crazy, David. I mean, I can't believe this happened with this Call of Duty Ghosts video game back in 2013.
And I think we've gone beyond what we would call predictive program. This is like a ritual to bring it about. It's like a ritual that is going to ensure that this agenda is accomplished. And it's chilling that it evolves into a war. And this is certainly something that could be very, very possible. But that is just absolutely amazing. And that should give anybody that's paying attention the understanding that there has been an agenda here for Greenland for a good while. Now, I want to read an article from the Encyclopedia Britannica in the 11th edition. This is the 1910 edition. And it talks about the ice that covers Greenland. It says the whole interior of Greenland is completely covered by the so-called inland ice, an enormous glacier forming a regular shield-shaped expanse of snow and glacier ice, and bearing all valleys and mountains far below its surface. Its area is about 715,400 square miles, and it is by far the greatest glacier of the northern hemisphere. The inland ice rises in the interior to a level of 9,000 and in places perhaps 10,000 feet or more, and descends gradually by extremely gentle slopes toward the coast. And the bottom line is that 80% of Greenland is covered by ice that is up to 10,000 feet thick. There could be anything there, and we would not know. And we're going to give you some possibilities of what we think might really be there. And it says that the interior must be at least 6,000 or 7,000 feet thick or more. And I read an article from the 1921 Collier's Encyclopedia, and it talked about, and it was written in 1921, this article in Collier's, and it said at that time they didn't even know the coastline of Greenland, where it even was. And today, there's only 56,000 people that live in Greenland. The town we moved from before we came here, Evansville, Indiana, it had over twice the amount of people that was in the entire nation of Greenland. Very isolated, a very big place with a very little amount of people. If the Even if the coastline is not known, it's just no way of knowing what is up there. It's really could be anything and everything. Now, what we're in this slide here, we have a map. Well, we have here a book cover first. This is a book entitled The Mystery of Doggerland. And if you've never heard of Doggerland, you're probably in with most people. But Doggerland is actually very important. It is, if you go in the North Sea, in there by England, and if you go a straight line from the North Sea, you'll hit Iceland and then Greenland. And there in that area, there is a huge submerged civilization. It's called Doggerland. And they have found some amazing things there that lead us to believe that, and a lot of people call it Atlantis. It could be part of that antediluvian world, but it's really interesting. Brian has talked a lot about the Ring of Brogard, and I have too. It's over there in England by Avebury and Stonehenge. It's one of the most profound megalithic monuments and one of the most mysterious. And in Doggerland, there is a Ring of Brogard in the depths of the North Sea, there where this civilization once was. And now, and this book by Graham Phillips, in this, they believe that the people that built Stonehenge and Avebury, that they came down from Doggerland, and that in an ancient catastrophe, just like we see ancient civilizations buried all over this good old flat earth, there in Doggerland, they now believe that the people came down from Greenland, Iceland, Doggerland, and on down into the British Isles, where we see the identical megalithic monuments. This leaving us with the conclusion that way back, that the area of Greenland, which we can tell from the fossils and the fauna, that it was inhabitable, and much so at one time, that this could have been the seat of a high civilization that came down into the British Isles and Europe and built many of those megalithic monuments many years BC. But what is your understanding here? And we've got here, there's a couple slides here to catch up on. Show them the map here of Doggerland, Brian, and the image of the Ring of Brogard, and expound on that for the folks just a little bit.
Well, I want to start with the Ring of Brogard, David. It's interesting you bring that up. Today, when you look at the circle, and I'm going to go ahead and show the circle first, and then we'll go back to the map here in a second on the Doggerland. But if you look at the Ring of Brogard, there's only 27 stones that remain standing today. 27, David. And what I thought was astounding to me and just really compelling, when you look at the stone structures, and especially when you're referring to Stonehenge and these ancient astronomers, this is an astronomer site. I mean, we got something here that there's a communication of some shape or form, and I've even tied this back to the Raphaim, the Nephilim, the giants of old. I did a show not too long ago on talking about this particular topic, the Ring of Brogard. But what was interesting, David, there's I think, if I'm not mistaken, original count of the stones was 60. So guess what? Not to bring this up and throw some smoke on the fire or some gasoline on the in the water. Maybe I'm wrong on my count here, sir, but there's 33 stones missing. I thought that was kind of ironic. So you got 33 stones missing. Is there something there that's of the evil occultic stance, or is there something there for entertainment purposes only? But when you think about that, Brother David, I'm going to throw something at you when you look at this ancient site. As you can see on the screen here, we went to a site here in Kentucky, David, and there was about 30-something of these bad boys in a place, and it looks very similar to what you see at the Ring of Brogard. I even speculated when I first went down there in that area in Kentucky and seen the replica of Stonehenge, I asked myself two questions. I said, how in the world did somebody transport these ancient rocks, and where did they get them from? And they look very eerily kind of like this site here at the Ring of Brogard. So there's the two things there to throw in, as far as the coincidence on that. But if you look at the size of this place, it's 104 meters in diameter, making it the largest stone circle in the British Isles. For comparison, the Stonehenge could comfortably fit inside it. Think about it, folks. It's large. And the rough estimate around it was built between 2500 BC and 2000 BC, making it roughly 4,500 to 5,000 years old. So they're talking about, when you look into this type of structure, people have theorized that it's some type of tomb, which come back to an astronomical alignment to the sun and moon, which all these ancient megalithic rock shelters are all tied to the cosmos in some shape or form. And there's a lot of theories that believe that this is a gathering place for trade, justice, or to serve as a neutral ground between different tribes. And then also there's a folklore that this site has the standing stones of Sternus. I think it's called Stennis. Were known as the Temple of the Moon. So there's moon worship being implemented here at this site, Brother David. And like I said, I did a show on this not too long ago when it referred to pillars of stone, that the giants was turned into stone. There's a lot of folklore around these ancient sites, with these astronomer sites like this, astronomical sites. So it's really interesting indeed. And then if you think about the Dogger map, the Doggerland map is so interesting to me when you think about the North Sea and you think about Norway and Denmark. And there's a lot of talks right now about Denmark. Mr. T has been talking about Denmark a lot. But could we be sitting here, Brother David, at an ancient site that has ancient ley line, earth energies, something to that magnification that could be once again firing back up today? And that's why we're going in 2026 to scavenge the lands and take over these territorial sites, because Greenland is literally a ticking, let's just say ticking time, you know what, for ancient technology. That's my take, David. What's your conclusion on what I just say? What do you think about this, the Neolithic site of this Ring of Brogard? What do you think about all this, David?
Well, I think the 33 missing stones from the Ring of Brogard, this is a signature, and it's a signature of the giants. Now, in the Bible, when the Joshua took the children of Israel into the promised land, there were 33 Nephilim kings that were destroyed. You can see them listed in scripture. And that there are 33 stones missing. This is very significant. It's the signature of the giants. And we're going to make a very strong case that Greenland was the land of the giants. It was a place of the ancient antediluvian world where the Hyperborean race dwelt and the giants were. And another book here that I want to make mention of also before we go on is this book here, and Brian has a slide on it, Atlantis Beneath the Ice. And this was written that we featured Serpent in the Sky by John Anthony West on our Cairo study on our Cities Lost in Time. And John Anthony West wrote the foreword to this book, Atlantis Beneath the Ice, Rand and Rose Flem Ath. And they make a very, very strong case that, and they believe that Antarctica is the place where the actual city of Atlantis could be, and that also in the north and the polar regions that the ice is covering much of the ancient civilizations. So we're talking about Atlantis here. We're talking about Atlantis. We're talking about the antediluvian world. We're talking about the mystery here of Greenland that goes back to the time of the giants and of the Hyperboreans. Now, there are those today, and Brian is going to play a clip here by Russ Cohart, and there are people today that are saying that all of this stuff about Greenland, it's about more than just military strategy and rare earth minerals. And it certainly, that's a lot of it. 35% of the uranium reserve in the world is there in Greenland, gobs and gobs of iron. But let's listen to Mr. Russ Cohart and let's get his take about what this Greenland mania is all about.
The real story about Greenland is UAPs. It's all about UFOs. And as you would know from a reality check some months back, we told the story with our Denmark correspondents about the fact that there's been frequent sightings of anomalous phenomena in and around parts of Greenland where there are, interestingly enough, large deposits of rare earth minerals. Maybe the aliens are as interested in what minerals and resources Greenland has as much as the Americans. Because the other thing that's of strategic importance to America are the rare earth minerals in Greenland. And I do think it's important to note the alleged non-humans have been taking an interest in that area as well. We're all watching on somewhat askance here from Australia, Megan. As you know, we love and respect and admire America, but boy, the bellicose statements coming.
And David, I just want to say this real quick. It's interesting that this journalist here, he's from Australia. He's been very high stature as far as very prominent in the UAP in the last, 5 years talking about this particular topic. And isn't it interesting that he made the claim about the rare earth minerals? And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth. But there's something there that's of an uh, ancient way of thinking, I guess, or maybe of an ancient understanding. But did you hear what he said? These, I guess, alien like, I guess the NIH or NHI or however you pronounce them, the three letters that they refer to with these non-human intelligence. It's kind of interesting that he seems to know a lot, doesn't he? He seems to know a lot. I wonder who he's referring to, David. Is he referring to the technocrats or somebody that's in higher social status of this society, of this reality? What do you think there, David?
Well, it is an absolute fact that the technocrats and the billionaires are very interested in Australia. And we're going to be talking about the Freedom City of Mr. Bezos and company in just a moment. But when Mr. Cohart says that the aliens are interested in Greenland, Bible believers will say, well, the Nephilim are interested in Greenland. The fallen angels are interested in Greenland. And I think that there is certainly something there in Greenland, and we're going to be connecting some dots here that are going to give us some pretty good ideas of what might be going on here. But certainly another group of people, the technocrats and the billionaires of the world, they're very interested in Greenland. And Brian, if you will, please talk a little bit about what they're calling Freedom City and the Freedom City that is being planned full steam ahead in Greenland.
So, folks, I've always said this a lot, especially when I'm on a visual disturbance, even on FOJC. I say you just can't make this stuff up. So, guess what? We can't make this stuff up. U.S. billionaires, including, we're going to be first name basis. I know we got some smart, intelligent listeners out there. You can make out the last names. But Bill, Peter, Sam, and Mr. Jeff are already establishing a presence in Greenland, and they're pouring money into an AI-powered rare earth drilling and advanced plans for the so-called Freedom City. Freedom. Kind of ironic, they just came out with the Greenland 2. I think it's coming out, 2 days ago? 9? I think it was January the 9th, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's when it was. Friday, I think. So the whole story, the mission is supposedly they have to use AI and machine learning to create Google Maps of Earth's crust. The algorithms can predict where deposits of nickel, cobalt, copper, and lithium are buried beneath Greenland's ice. Think about it for a minute. The drilling has been planned and executed in phases to secure the raw minerals needed for the green energy transition and AI hardware. Kind of ironic, David. Kind of ironic, right? We had a lot of lithium depositories coming up the last, couple years. We had miraculously unphenomenal water patterns come out of nowhere, dropping 17 inches in some places, and I mean just catastrophic flooding. And it makes you really wonder what's really going on in our reality, in our paradigm. And I can speculate and probably go down a rabbit trail, but when you think about UAPs, UFOs, re-engineered craft, what these men have the ability and the capability to do as far as deep pockets, what they're doing with the rare earth minerals, and what I'm hearing, Dave, when I think about cobalt, I think about the nickel, copper, lithium, I'm thinking they're wanting to make a dystopian future. They're wanting to make crafts and things that is of their control mechanism, right? It's almost like Skynet on steroids, Terminator off the rails. I really do think that, David. And this kind of ironically comes down when Mr. Jeff is biggest as far as the biggest in I guess the first time for the Kindle, what I'm talking about? I'm trying to play around here, but he he owns a certain company that is actually working with drones now to replace their workers and fly drones in to deliver product to help with productivity. So it's kind of ironic that Greenland has abundance of that, so he can build these advanced equipment to continue his prospering with his multi-trillion-dollar franchise, so to speak. So what do you think about that, Dave? There's billionaires going there already. We got countries going to war for it, and we got Mr. T saying we're going to take it regardless. It's insane where we're at, David. It's insane.
Yeah, in the movie Greenland, and here it's not a coincidence that Greenland 2, the movie, has just come out. I think it might have been yesterday or the day before. And in Greenland, the movie, there was a comet that was coming in to destroy the Earth, and it pretty much in the movie it destroyed everybody that didn't get in the bunker. And there was a bunker prepared ahead of time in Greenland where the elite of the world went to survive the catastrophic comet hit. So now, is it a coincidence that right now, Greenland mania, only 56,000 people in the whole country, and now we've got Greenland 2 coming out? It is not a coincidence. And the speculation, we were talking here about the ice sheet that covers 80% of Greenland, as much as 10,000 feet thick in places. That's a lot of ice. Up in even in 1921 and today, you can't tell where the coast is. I imagine today, with their ground penetrating radar, they can determine just where the coast of Greenland is. But one of the things that is just another thing that is just really wild is people are speculating that underneath the ice that there could be craft and giants. I'm gonna be reading from a book written in the 40s that was speculating about giants under the ice, and it's just really really nuts, and it ties in with the religious belief of certain people we're going to be talking about. But Brian, let's look at this video and set this up for the folks. This is by David Wayne Miller, and Mr. Miller and other people believe that there is actually a craft that is there underneath Greenland.
The last ice age.
Brian, can you hear me?
Yeah, 1 second, Brother David. Apologize, folks.
Okay, you're setting it up. Yeah, I just want to make sure we still had good audio.
Well, the spacecraft that is anchored in the center of Greenland created the last ice age 50,000 years ago. It's a weather machine. It's 55 miles wide, 300 miles long, and 2 miles high. The people that lived in it were called the Mois. If you draw a straight line from the spacecraft to the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C., through the Yucatan Peninsula Great Pyramid at Mitsubishi, it ends up on Easter Island, where the Mois have been dug out of this dirt. The heads on Easter Island, well, 2 years ago, they finally went ahead and they excavated, and they're all 65 to 85 foot people, full body carvings. And these were the people that lived in the spacecraft that was uncovered, that's melting out of the ice in Greenland.
This video was around, I think, 15 to 13 years ago. So what David is speaking of here, Mr. Miller, is talking about, if you listen to his key words, he's talking about a weather machine. And David, you keep talking about 10,000. I keep hearing you say 10,000. And it's ironic to me that that we're looking at layers of ice, but the thing is, we've done shows about weather modification and things that they have technologically. And then when you look at this, and this gentleman's claiming this thing about how large this craft is in Greenland, maybe it's possible, David, that this is something that they're going for. Maybe this is why they're so fully ready to pay. I was going to tell you this earlier. You said around 56,000, 57,000 people that populate Greenland. David, they're even floating around the amount to pay them like $10,000 to $100,000 per person to help kind of facilitate and real estate bargain. It's kind of crazy right now. So they're throwing the golden platter. So if Mr. David Miller here is correct, and the way the UFO community's been talking about when it comes to the specific things about what size is, if it's a 20-foot craft in diameter or what have you, sometimes they are like the size of a football field when you walk in. I mean, David, what kind of technology we got going on here? Could there be something tied back when we referred to the, we talked about misread record thousands of times here on FOJC, talking about the vapor canopy. Could this be the ancient site of the Stargate of the Hyperborean entities that are these rare earth minerals that they keep throwing into our face? Could it be something on a interdimensional gateway where they get elements, kind of like CERN. They can only get them at certain strategic times, and it's way beyond our pay grade as humans as of today. And they're going forward. Could that be what this is, David? And this craft could be activated. I mean, it's all speculative here, folks. But David, what do you think about that? What's your comments on that?
Well, before too long, Brian, and I'll just say I don't have any way to verify what this fellow says. I don't know. Uh, it's interesting that this thing is aligned with Easter Island and Stonehenge because you can see a definite alignment with the megalithic sites all over the earth. So that's interesting. But as far as rare earth minerals and portals, we're going to be talking about a little guy here before long that had to smear stuff on his body and put metals in the tunnel to go through portals down to the Giant's Well. That little guy's name was Baron von Trump. And this was a book that was written in the Baron von Trump saga was written in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And there in the north, in the Urals, we did a little going through some portals with some minerals and stuff smeared all over the little guy, so he could go down through the tube. So we're gonna see some amazing similarities that this thing it goes back in time, and you talk about predictive programming and rituals, and we're not quite there yet, but that Baron von Trump thing, that's another thing is going to tie right in to the wheelhouse of this thing. Now, I want to look here at a book called Arctos, The Polar Myth. And this is a book by Jocelyn Goodwin, and a very fascinating book. And the very first chapter is entitled Prologue in Hyperborea, and the chapter one is entitled The Golden Age. We hear people throw around the term Golden Age, and we've done a couple other broadcasts on the Golden Age, that the oldest version of the Golden Age is this, that the Golden Age was the days when the giants of Hyperborea, when they roamed the earth. And this was that ancient white race in the far north. And they believe that through blood purity, that they can achieve again the Golden Age. And I'll read a couple things. There's so many things in this that is so fascinating. And Miss Goodwin also makes the connection. She says here, this is on page 47, she says, the Atlanteans were thus the same as the Hyperboreans of classical legend, having originated in the garden of Hesperides near the pole, and left evidence of their once happy climate in the fossil flora and fauna of the Arctic Circle. And many people have made the connection between this ice covered area and Atlantis. And you can call it Atlantis, you can call it peanut butter and jelly, whatever you want to call it. All over the earth, in the Pacific, there is the continent of Mu. There's gobs of stuff down in the Caribbean, over off the coast of Japan. There is underground, underwater civilizations that have been buried all over the earth. These are all signs and verification that in the antediluvian world, there was a very high civilization that is very, very ancient. Not as we're told that they were a bunch of dummies, but there was a very high and intelligent civilization. Now, I want to read something else here from this book before we go on. And she writes this on page 72. She says, however, this kind of transcendence is limited to those whose blood preserves the memory of the ancient white Hyperborean race. We've done broadcasts on the tall whites. There have been whistleblowers, multiple ones that have come out and said that they have seen tall whites out in the military facilities here in the United States, out in New Mexico and other places. Just saying. Now,
Wow.
also very important here, and this is a clue, As we're going through all this, I was wondering now there's got to be a connection between Venezuela and Greenland. And I think this could be hitting on it right here.
The,
And she says here the Thule Society, in this perspective, was a revival of the Hyperborean ideals via Germanic myth and the science of runes. Now, we know that during World War II and pre World War II, the spiritual atmosphere that gave rise to Mr. Hitler was that of the Thule Society that believed in the blood purity. And as we'll see as we go forward, that Mr. Hitler was obsessed with finding the portal and the gateway into the hollow earth.
Wow, David. Oh my! I'm sitting here listening to you for the last few minutes, and David, it just came to me, man. So you said, if I heard you correctly, talking about the purity of blood, they have to have the purity of blood, right? Is this what this book's referring to?
Yeah,
so
they
David,
believe that'll bring back the golden age.
Oh wow! So here's where I'm at. So welcome to the broadcast, folks. We're going down the rabbit hole tonight. But David, I remember something very diabolical that went down in the last 5 years. But I remember something very specific. I thought it was around the March or April time frame, and it was to do something with the blood. Okay, so do you remember the massive scientific milestone that was reached for humanity when scientists unlocked this final 8% of the human genome that has been the missing DNA for 2 decades, they said. And how ironic, 4 years later, we are miraculously showing up at the lovely Greenland, David. We're popping up at Greenland. We got the technocrats there. We got the blood on backup. We got the data on backup. We got the 8% junk DNA that they unlocked humanity's. You know what? And ironically, this is happening. What do you say about that, David? What do you think? Do you think this is all speculation? Well, David left. David disappeared, folks. so guess what? So there's some fun humor from when we go live. You never know what happens. So brother David just disappeared. I talked about something so controversial they came and got him. But anyways, let's continue on. So folks, if you have ever heard that before, back in the day, a couple years ago, they started talking about this and really ramping it up around 2020, 2021. There was something that happened, and we can't talk about it here, but there was something that happened in the world, and there was certain things and certain applications that was extracting DNA. And ironically, they found this junk DNA, this genome, this 99 protein coding is what they call it. 99 problems, huh? But it's kind of ironic that DNA situation, 8% human genome, was miraculously unlocked, and here we are today. So David, you're back. You teleported back. Did you go to Hyperborea? Did you go to Hyperborea and come back, sir? So David, what do you think about that? When I didn't mean to throw a wrench in the motor, but what do you think about that with the blood scenario? Do you think that you said golden age and you've seen these key words, and I was thinking about nanotech, technological advancements, transhuman phase, and then literally trying to become that Gilberim of the mighty men of old in this day and age. And that's where my mind was going. I didn't know if you heard what I was telling the audience about the 8% DNA unlocked back in 2022. And ironically, here we are 4 years later, and we're all going gun-ho for Greenland. So it's kind of ironic to me, and maybe there's nothing there. Maybe there's no coincidences whatsoever. But to me, David, I think it's very relevant.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And what, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about a group of people, and I don't think they even have an official name. Maybe the best name for them would be neo-Nazis. They are the people that at the end of World War II, many of them went into South America, as we all know, and they continued as a network. We know that we had Operation Paperclip, and the space programs, so-called, of Russia and the United States, and the development of these sophisticated nuclear weaponry, these were spearheaded in Russia and in the United States by German scientists that came from Operation Paperclip. Now, I think we would be naive to think that these people in Russia and America that worked side by side, that they had no contact with one another after they went to work for Russia and for the United States. But that's another story. But the people that went into South America, Jim Mars, the conspiratorial author, he called this network in South America the best organized and the most well funded cult of all time. They had literally millions of dollars. They had all kinds of connections, and they exist to this day. And there was a religious persuasion of these people that was quite frightening, and it's very little talked about, but it's very well documented, and I've read several books on it. And they literally worshiped Adolf Hitler as an avatar. They worshiped him as an avatar. And one of the gentlemen that was one of the heads of this movement, he was one of the religious, he was like the high priest of this cult, was a fellow by the name of Miguel Serrano. And this one book here, it's entitled The Golden Thread, Esoteric Hitlerism. And the title there is enough to choke you, isn't it? Now I'll read just a little bit so we can get an idea of what they believed and how this connects with Greenland. Now, he says this. He says, according to the Chaldeans, Hyperborea could only be reached by a secret tunnel. Now, here we go, full stop. There is supposedly a secret tunnel that leads to Hyperborea. Now, this takes us all the way back, and we're heading toward Baron von Trump, going down the tunnel. Here we go. According to the Chaldeans, Hyperborea could only be reached by a secret tunnel in the ice that arrived at the Euphrates. And we know the Bible says about the four angels that are bound by the river Euphrates. So according to the old Chaldeans, that there was a secret tunnel that came out at the Euphrates and went into Hyperborea. It says the glaciers melt rapidly after the fourth millennium, and an ocean of mud, hello mud flood, prevents all contact with Hyperborea, submerged in catastrophe. The islets of Iceland and Greenland survive, where some Hyperboreans take refuge, as well as the Isle of the Dead. So there you go. These people believe that Hyperboreans still live in Greenland, and they believed that there was actually a tunnel that went under the ice down right into Hyperborea. This is something that Mr. Hitler was absolutely obsessed with. And this is deeply tied in with the occult and with black magic. I'll read just a little bit more. And they also connect it with the Golden Age. He says this, the climate, and he's talking now about the inner earth. He said the climate in the inside is in equilibrium, as was once that of the outer earth before the deviation of the axis and the inversion of the poles. There, the solar golden age still exists. They believe that the golden age exists in the heart of the earth, and they believe that through blood purity, just like Mr. Hitler wanted to breed the German people with the Hyperboreans. Now, we today as Christians, we understand that the blood purity is actually blood corruption. That this goes back to the Genesis 6 scenario where the fallen angels wanted to corrupt the human genome, and they did a pretty good job of it before the Lord weighed in with the flood. And it goes on to say, in the center of the inner earth, there is a sun, smaller than our sun on the outside, as gravity is less on the inside. The inhabitants are of gigantic stature, and they live very long lives. And, are we just crazy here? Or is this something that has a possibility to actually be true? And I think, Brian, when we put this against the word of God, we can see the scenario that these people are trying to become a part of.
And David, when I think about, since you mentioned the Bible, talking about the new creature, not going back to the old ways of the old man, becoming a new creature through Christ. It's kind of interesting in talking about when you get into deep dives with that, with the blood, Christ's blood, the blood atonement, the payment death, right? And then you think about what you're talking about here with this, and I think about blood. I've looked at a lot of different sites, a lot of different places, and do ritualistic stance and doing blood rituals and what have you. And I've even come to the conclusion, I know some folks out there, some guys out there in the Utah area, Skinwalker Ranch, are looking at blood, like bovine blood, and wondering if it's quantifiable. And I think I'm almost on the same level, almost, if to a certain level, a certain degree of bovine blood. And I almost thought about it one day of doing a show not too long ago on it, but I kind of retracted it, kind of went back and thought about it and prayed about it. I haven't really felt led to do it. Since you brought it up, we're going to do it for a few seconds here. I think there's something to do with the blood, and if there's enough of it that is isolated to one area, then you have portals and stuff that come out and move to a certain degree, and there's things that somehow sense it. You hear the term as a kid looking at Jack and the Beanstalk and all these kids' nursery rhymes and different books for children, fee fi fo fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman, and it reminds you of the giant narrative, Jack and the Beanstalk, and all that. So one would have to wonder if these are just folklore and just fairy tales and just somebody well-written books just to have some fun and fun entertainment. But I have to beg to differ. I don't really agree with that. I think there's always something to something that is tied through, passed down through generational, and people lose their lust. Well, they never forgot their lust because of the evil world and the wickedness of the way the lustful of the flesh it's unbelievable. And that's what we were relating to through this whole broadcast. The sinner, when you're a sinner, you're full of lustfully, fleshly things. You want to go after immortality. You want to become a Gilberine, like I said earlier, talking about the sons of God made with the daughters of men and the giant narrative. I think they're literally trying to become like Nimrod back in the day, and becoming in that transhuman phase. It's going to be a new human, a silicon type of like singularity AI mechanism, so to speak. So I think I lost David again, folks. I think he teleported back. He's back. David Carrico's back. Some people in the chat said you got raptured. I knew you'd be back. Earlier you lifted up out of your chair, just teleported, but now you completely vanished, but you're back, David. What do you think about that, David? Do you think that blood can be quantified, when they look at the scaling of it as far as energy levels and ritualistic stance? Because, we've done many shows on this, and it has to come back to it. I think when there's blood poured, God hears it. God knows about it, just like the days of Cain and Abel, and when Abel's blood was crying on the face of the earth. I think that's literally telling us a story. And when there's abundance of blood poured out upon the land, that we're special in God's image. And I think these territorial spirits, these Nephilim, these demonic forces come out of the woodwork and really start to really have a heyday. That's just my conclusion to it. That's just where I've kind of ended up on my research and my endeavor. So on that. So what's your take on that, sir?
Well, most definitely the life is in the blood, and the blood is what they want to defile, and the shedding of blood defiles the earth. These are biblical and spiritual truths. And before we move on from this book by Mr. Serrano, there's something here that's very telling. The way that these conspiracies are constructed, there are certain families, elite families, that keep turning up, that play huge roles in the development and the implementation of the satanic lie. And one of the first ones, and actually the first person to write about the hollow earth in our time in the golden age, you'd never guess, But Mr. Serrano writes here, the first to write about the hollow earth in our times toward the end of the last century and the beginning of ours were American. Also to write was one of Darwin's grandfathers, Erasmus Darwin, in his unusual book, The Golden Age. Now, isn't that amazing? We know the destruction and the demonic chaos that the Darwin family has unleashed, and there it is. Now, we're going to make another connection here, and buckle up for this one. I want to read here from a book entitled The Man Who Invented the 20th Century, Nikola Tesla. And this is by Robert Lomas. And we're going to look at some far north technology that goes back to Mr. Tesla. And on page 260, he writes this: HARP is based on the ideas of Bernard Eastland, who holds 3 U.S. patents, all of which have been issued as improvements on the patents first issued to Tesla after his Colorado test. Apparatus for altering a region in the Earth's atmosphere, ionosphere, and or magnetosphere method and apparatus. Just this week, there was photos of unusual activity in the northern lights, and this was attributed to magnetic anomalies. This HARP technology, which is in the far north, this is Tesla technology with Mr. Eastland just making a couple additions. This is HARP, able to blast holes in the ionosphere. Now, one of the theories, and I put years ago, I talked about this, that they actually are trying to bring entities through gates and portals. We see portals going down, we see portals going up. But here we see, and also I'll just read one more paragraph here. It says the last patent, which describes an anti-missile shield which could destroy the electronics of hostile missiles or satellites, is the realization of Tesla's death ray. It works by creating a plasma packet of high-energy particles, Tesla's Colorado ball lightning, on a large scale. But what do you think, Brian, here of the Tesla connection? And isn't it interesting that they put HARP in the far north, up into this far north Arctic region? We see again this technology come together, and this is going to snowball rapidly. But what do you think of that, Brian?
Short and sweet on this, David. I think Nikola Tesla already had preconceived knowledges on, I said knowledges, longitude, latitude. He knew precisely where things was, how to manipulate, how to extract the electricity from the airwaves. This man was before his time, and I know he had to have some help, David. He had to have some help along the way, something of not even the pay grade of his reality back in that day. Something more intelligent had to have helped him find these locations. There's no way around it. And he was so before his time. I mean, I've even heard him. He would do certain things around the towers that he created. He would walk around 3 times, and all these different rituals that he would do, and certain things that he would not partake in. And it's just phenomenal, David. The man had to have supernatural knowledge of some shape or form. Somebody or something was giving Nikola Tesla advancements before his time. It definitely. And he was seeing things. I think I've read some of his journal where he was even proclaiming futuristic stance and talking about a device that would go into your pocket that you could communicate back and forth. And this was back in the day. So if you have that type of insight, he had to have had some preconceived knowledge that far surpasses anything of back in the early 1900s. Absolutely.
And Mr. Tesla readily admitted that he received information for his inventions from the spiritual realm. He readily admitted that. And also, the German scientists that developed the sophisticated German weaponry, they also believed and they claimed that the information came from seances from the Thule Society and from the lady that was the head of that. Maria was her name. But this is just, it's a settled fact. The guy, he was hooked up into the spiritual realm, and I would not say on the good side. But this whole scenario has Mr. Tesla's fingerprint on it. Now, in this next slide here, this is a picture of Donald Trump's uncle. Donald Trump's uncle was a leading scientist, one of the elite, and Mr. Trump's uncle was asked to examine, and after Mr. Tesla died, there was a real scramble from the Russian and the American intelligence agencies to recover his notes and his paper, because this technology, it was so far ahead, it is literally the blueprint for interstellar death rays and for literally something, the HARP technology that can do so much. But Mr. John Trump came into possession of Nikola Tesla's notes. Now, after John Trump died, guess who got the notes of Tesla's paper? That's right, Mr. T himself. And I'm not talking about the guy on Mod Squad. No, I'm not. And I've often believed and suspicioned that the raid on Mar-a-Lago, that what they might have really been after was Tesla's papers. But Mr. Trump has them to this day, and I cannot help but believe that Mr. Trump's insight and desire to acquire Greenland has something to do with this.
Stunning, David. It's stunning you bring this up about John Trump and the death ray. So remember just recently, well, we just talked about it, about the Call of Duty Ghost video game, but the actual happening reality in 2026 with Venezuela, Maduro. Maduro got captured, right? Well, they just announced this yesterday, I think a day and a half ago. The U.S. used a powerful, mysterious weapon in the raid to capture Maduro in Venezuela. And the reports was the soldiers started bleeding from their mouth, nose, even their ears. I heard in some cases vomiting, other situations, other bodily fluids. I mean, literally incapacitated. They came in there, infiltrated, pulled some type of weaponry out, and here we are talking about the same family line here, okay? John Trump, is the technology still going around and we advanced it tenfold over and over? David, I'm thinking I'm thinking something what you just said. Is that what happened? I mean, we can only speculate, but that type of technology, if they had this back then in John Trump's days, could you imagine what they got now in 2026?
And I believe we're in the time where the boys are going to be bringing out the toys. And they have so much sophisticated weaponry that they haven't even displayed to the world. And I think the boys are going to be bringing out the toys. I really do. I want to read from this book here. This is called Real Zombies by Brad Steiger. And this documents something that we have been alluded to several times throughout the broadcast. And Mr. Steiger writes this. He says, in April 1942, Nazi Germany sent out an expedition composed of a number of its most visionary scientists to seek a military vantage point in the hollow earth. This was a definite, documented military expedition by the Germans in 1942. They were all about finding the entry point to the hollow earth. And going on, Mr. Steiger writes this. He says the Nazi scientists who left for the Isle of Rügen had complete confidence in the validity of their quest. In their minds, such a coup as discovering the opening to the inner world would not only provide them with a military advantage, but it would go a long way in convincing the masters who lived there that the German people truly deserved to mix their blood with them in the creation of a hybrid master race to occupy the surface world. Truly a new world order. We're right back now to the UAP phenomenon. We're right back to the UFO abduction scenarios where men and women both say that they are subjected to things of a sexual nature. We've talked about the breeding program. We've talked about this in a lot of broadcasts, Brian. This takes us right back to the absolute nothing less than the powers of darkness wanting to totally genetically eliminate the human race and take over the world. And we know that before they do, the Lord's going to weigh in. But what do you, and I know, but what do you say about that, Brian?
So it's interesting, David, you in this book, The Real Zombies. David, I'm thinking about David Pilati's research on the missing 411, and he did a documentary on that a couple years ago, and the abductees, the UFO phenomenon, and what he found out was it was men that had like infirmities or had something wrong with them, or they was out hunting or doing something out in the woods, and they would come up with these triangle craft, would come and abduct them, right, and take them out, take them away. Well, the interesting thing that was so stunning about it, what come down the pike from the understanding of the blood analysis, all these individuals, David, had German blood in them. Every single one of them. Some of them was in their 20s, 30s, in their 70s, and they all had that connection with German blood. So, David, it's almost like what you said is like really something still going on until this very day. And it's something to do with technological advancements and whatever they got in, you're talking about declaring the big toys, whatever they got at their disposal, David. We're getting ready to see it. I mean, we're getting ready to see something that's so sci-fi, it makes World War II and World War I look like a kindergarten show. You know what I'm saying? As far as the brute force of what tech we actually do have. It's stunning, David.
And Mr. David Pilates documented that in case after case, that these people that were being abducted were of German heritage. Why? Well, maybe because, and these people believe that the presence of certain DNA in your blood gives you certain abilities. This is why we did the broadcast from the Garden of the Golden Age, and we talked about why children are abducted and why some children in SRA are abducted is because they believe that they are of a certain bloodline that gives them certain supernatural abilities that can be awakened. This was a lot of the storyline of that um, television series Fringe, which was just deeply, deeply compelling. But, this is not a coincidence. There are so many things here that tie together in so many directions that we cannot dismiss them as coincidence. Now, here is an amazing piece of this puzzle. And this is a book. It's entitled Ingersoll Lockwood, The Complete Collection. And Ingersoll Lockwood wrote at the end of the 1800s and in the early 1900s. And I've referred to, and Brian has also, and to his writings throughout the broadcast. And we're going to read some things from this that are just, you know, beyond coincidence. And how in the world we did a complete book review on this that you can see on our Underground Church, where we go into a lot of detail with the similarities. But I'll just read a few things here. And on page 109, he writes this. He said, all was now ready for the start. Beneath the rising sun, I could see a long, dark line far away, where earth and sky came together. It was Palin Ma Talin, home of darkness, the great gloomy forest. This is describing what you would see in the far north when there would be times where the sun wouldn't rise for many days, the land of the midnight sun, as they call it. And that gloomy forest sounds like perhaps an allusion to that far north Arctic region. And here, to take out all possibility of being in error here on page 195, it places the uh, events that take place in the far north in the northern Ural Mountains. On page 195, it says, "But not another step farther, little baron," said the doggedly. "I was now really at the foothills of the northern Urals, for the rocky crest and snow-clad peaks were in full sight." Here again, we're back to the north, and we're talking about portals, we're talking about funnels, we're talking about gates and portals in this book that go down to what they call the Giant's Well. And it says here on page 208, it says, "It had made its way through a crack or crevice in Polyphemus Tunnel, and I had rubbed it off in sliding down the side with this greasy material to rub on the inside of the pipe to the funnel, and also to besmear myself with. Mayhap I may yet slip through into the world within a world." The Baron von Trump books are obsessed with the same thing that the Thule Society was, entering into the world within a world. And as they put it here, the Giant's Well. The introduction to chapter 6 is very telling. It says, "My despair upon finding the pipe of the funnel too small for my body, a ray of hope breaks in upon me, full account of Hue I succeeded in entering the pipe of the funnel, my passage through it, Bulger's timely aid, the marble highway, and some curious things concerning the entrance to the world within the world, and our descent into the Giant's Well." It's all there. It's amazing. My goodness, Brian, what I can take out of this, we have the same story here in this Baron Trump material, which mysteriously, in so many details, relates to Mr. Trump. We're going through tunnels in the far north into the inner earth. Can this be a coincidence? What's going on, Brian?
It's extraordinary to even think about, really. I mean, you just that last little bit that you read talking about tunnels, and there's an element. We'll just call it a black substance. How about that? Because we have to watch what we say. We know what it is here at FOJC, but we're not going to say it here on this platform. We're going to respect it. But the black goo, it reminds me, David, of something that I looked at 10 years ago, probably 10, 11 years ago, 12, give or take. And David, they found a black substance in sarcophaguses in Egypt. Some of the priests, some of the pharaohs, and even the locals and the thieves would call it the blood of the gods. And they was like trying to gather it up in whatever type of canister they could get it. They was trying to sell it. The Egyptian government got a hold of it. It was crazy. There was some very bad, let's just say, discipline done to these folks. And that's what I remember. I remember seeing this black goo substance, and they was even claiming on the scientific community that it had a nano, you know what I'm saying, technology to that. So if you tie it back, and these sarcophaguses was like 3,500 years old, so what's really going on here? And then in this book, when you think about this book and what they're referring to, this tunnel, the Great North, it's almost like they're talking about time. There's a time, there's a location, there's the time and place for wherever they are. And if they're having to put this black substance all over them to go to the Great North, is that technology, David? I mean, I'm thinking more on a 4 or 5D realm here. Are they literally changing their paradigm and saying that they're out of body, or is it more physical? What are we looking at here? Is it more like doppelganger twinning? Hitler was obsessed with twins. Is there a twinning here? Is there like a consciousness with taking consciousness elsewhere and putting it? I mean, seriously, David, where are we at here? Talking about the Avatar program with Hitler. Do you know that there actually is a program like that, David? There actually is an Avatar program. I hope I'm not getting too far ahead of you, but what is it, David? Is there this this substance, and it's even in movies, David? They've been, we were talking about movies earlier, but pre-predictive programming, this black substance goes in Prometheus alien movies. I mean, David, the giants roamed in the earth. The giants was there back in the day, and now they are coming back one day. Is this how they do it, David? Is this how they access these ancient portals back through antiquity, throughout pre-Adamic world, through this substance or something to that level? That's what I'm hearing in this book, David. I mean, it's very profound.
Something we have to remember is that we're dealing with ancient spirits. Fallen angels have been alive for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. They live through many of our lifetimes. They use secret societies to achieve their goal, not through a decade or two, but through literally millennia of thousands of years. And this is unexplainable without the supernatural intervention of dark powers orchestrating this thing literally for thousands and thousands of years. And as I look at all of this, you have to wonder, what is the connection between Greenland and Venezuela? I thought there's got to be one, and I think the connection is right here. And we have an article here that Brian is going to bring up, and this is from a 2001 Associated Press article, and it's entitled "Search for Nazi Agents Stuns Venezuela." And the Simon Wiesenthal Foundation, who made it their job to track down Nazis, they presented the government of Venezuela with the documentation that 18 leaders of the South American Nazi movement were in Venezuela, 18 of them. And the possibility that there were people in the Venezuelan government that had the belief and the understanding that such was there in Greenland, this is absolutely possible. This could be the connection that connects the Greenland and Venezuela. We could be coming through this belief system that was there in Germany and still exists in South America to this very day. Go ahead, Brian. If you want to comment on that, go right ahead before we roll on.
Well, it's fascinating, David, because, both these sites are strategically getting, let's just say there's a lot of traction with these two locations. So that tie-in is it's stunning. It really is. I mean, I words are leaving me how the comparisons and how everything and the timing on this could not be more crazy. I mean, when you really think about it, an open-minded person taking all this in, if this is the first time you ever heard this type of information, it's kind of just like, there it is, in your face, straightforward. There it is, directly, there's the source, and here we are today talking about it here in January 2026. So it's all being revealed. The veil is being thinned. It's being shown, and God is showing us. He's just pouring it out every which way. But I think these two locations are literally detrimental to their plan, and I think we're going to talk about Venezuela here toward the end again, but I think both of these sites, Greenland and Venezuela, have a connection like you just referred to, and it goes back to ancient knowledge, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit about the dragon. But David, man, stunning. That's the word I can use. Fascinating.
Let's just go there, Brian. Let's just go there. And there are people that are formulating the theory that there is literally underneath the ice in Greenland a Leviathan. And Brian, why don't you just pull the slide up and share with folks about that?
Yeah, this has been going a hot topic here lately in the last couple of days, and there's individuals out there talking about this location. They're calling them conspiracy theorists, right? But they're starting to claim that there's an underworld access point. So speaking of, Ingersoll Lockwood there earlier about the tunnel system, they're claiming that Venezuela is literally an underworld access point. Talking about Argatha, Halo, Hollow Earth. So, and supposedly the speculation is there's a thawing out of a dragon, an ancient dragon. Could it be the ancient jinn? Could it be a mud fossil? David referred to mud floods earlier. Could there be some prehistoric ancient specimen of a dragon being thawed out? And they're literally claiming that that's what Venezuela has underneath the earth. So not only do we have a craft in Greenland, a supposedly large spacecraft, now we're claiming there's an ancient dragon, something like Game of Thrones, that is literally laying dormant alive in Venezuela. So David, blowing my mind, they're claiming that it's literally the veil of the breaking of Lucifer. That's what they're claiming it. That's what they're titling it all over the Internet of Things. So is Venezuela the ancient underworld access point and some kind of direct connection to Antarctica or connection to Greenland? What do you think, David? We got this ancient dragon. Is there dragon still upon the earth like the Bible talks about? I mean, we're dealing with something here. Either it's code words, they call it the connection to the Leviathan connection, or is it just a portal to in Venezuela? We can only speculate. What do you think, David? There's a lot here to chew on.
Well, in South America, we've talked in a lot of broadcasts about the ancient feathered serpent, the Quetzalcoatl. And perhaps this came from in antiquity, a real, one of these real creatures. And could the connection between Venezuela and Greenland is what is buried deep underneath both of them, let alone the ideological ties and the belief in this ideology of portals into the hollow earth? That certainly, they haven't been the first ones to speculate such things. And I want to go back to another book by Miguel Serrano. And as I alluded to earlier, Mr. Serrano could well be called the high priest of the neo-Nazi spirituality post-World War II. And this book is entitled Adolf Hitler, the Ultimate Avatar. And I want to make clear that this isn't something Brian and I we do not support this, we reject this. But we're relating to you what they believe because this connects the dots in understanding why we see certain things happening, some reasoning behind it. And when you look at Mr. Putin taking Ukraine, how dare you take a sovereign country, echoes the world. With Mr. Xi Jinping in China wanting to take Taiwan, well, we'll go to war with you, but now we'll take Greenland with the military if we have to. What do we got going on here? And there's more going on with all this than meets the eye. There is something that these people deem to be of utmost importance. So let's go back and let's read into this other book here, Adolf Hitler, the Ultimate Avatar, which we reject. We reject this as a counterfeit demonic spirituality, but this is one of the keys to connecting the dots with what is going on. Now let's read a little bit here, and it's very, very compelling. And this is on page 54. Geomantic mystery must be attributed to the sacred geography to the land. Chile, land of sublime beauty, submits unattainable and pure where the white gods once lived. The sacred region is where the giants of the ancient sun have taken refuge in the interior of the mountain. Now, this man who wrote this, let me see the date on this. This was written, I believe, in the 40s, and they believed that in the South American regions there in Chile, that there were giants in the interior of the mountain. This reminds of Isaiah 13. We've read this several times in the Septuagint, where it says that the giants will come forth from under the mountain. Boy. And it says here, the sacred region is where the giants of the ancient sun have taken refuge in the interior of the mountain. Moreover, the mountains are these same giants petrified. Mud fossils. Mud fossils. They believed in mud fossils. We've done several broadcasts on that. Moreover, the mountains are these same giants petrified that will one day return to populate a continent emerging from the waters, continent of the spirit, after the great catastrophe that will close the Kali Yuga, the darkest age. Here too, within the mountain, will be found the magic city, enchanted, that in the Himalayas is called Argatha, and in the Andes, the cities of the Caesar. Here is hidden the Grail, and live the Siddhas, the immortal Hyperboreans, the disappeared Viking priests, Templars, Inca kings, and our Fuhrer. The terrible vibrations of this south polar zone will destroy us together with our dreams. Like all the generations of men who have lived there, only the transfiguration of the landscape, the liberation of the giants from the Andean rock, initiatic transmutation, resurrection after mystic death, the meeting with the entrances to the enchanted city, to the inner earth, the oasis of Antarctica, the transformation of man into total man. Only this will make it possible for us to survive and to become immortal. This is the way of the Grail to the Andes, to the Andes. You know, when we hear people today saying that they believe that there are craft and creatures buried here, this is part of the religious philosophy of these people, that literally in the inner earth there are the giants, and we've done entire broadcast on the hollow earth, tying it in biblically, and with the land of Cain. But certainly the people that are coming out and saying that Leviathan is there in Venezuela, that we have huge craft of the Moai in Greenland, they're not the first to say it. This is a distinctive element of a part of religious belief, and these people might be tied to this. I don't know. A little research might connect that dot. But these people believe that the key to survival and the key to supremacy is just like in World War II. They were obsessed with being able to harness the vril energy. And I believe that beyond all of this, I think we have more going on than the quest for uranium, more going on than worrying about Russian submarines. I think there's a very, very deep agenda that is pushing political leaders to say very radical and unorthodox things about taking Greenland. What sayest thou, Brother Reese?
David, my mind is going about 10 different thousand directions. When I'm trying to comprehend what you just said, I'm over here thinking about the Knights of the Templar, the 1550s, the 1580s, and then thinking about that I think it's David Rumsey's map. Rumsey, excuse me. It's like a stationary flat Earth map. And I remember looking at the South America, Venezuela, you would see the griffins, you would see the mermaids, you would see the dragons, you would see the Knights of the Templar communicating with other things. There would be gifts given. There's all kinds of illustration on that map. We've talked about it on Visual Disturbance. We talked about it on FOJC. And it's almost like, David, like something happened in the 1500s. And I've been seeing a lot of information that's been dumped out with three-letter agencies talking about something that happened in the 1500s. And it's almost like either the Knights of the Templars had some type of spiritual application. And you can look through some books where they talk about there was interdimensional beings communicating with them, telling them where to go. And it's almost like there's nothing new under the sun, Ecclesiastes, like the Bible talks about. There's nothing new. So it's almost like the same, you have the embodied spirits that are roaming the earth. They somehow manifested some shape or form to be shapeshifter Nephilim, and they look 6 foot tall and bulletproof, whatever the case is. It's almost like those applications are still residing today, and they're literally going for it with technology that we far precedes our mind and our pay grade. And it's almost like these ancient spirits they're territorial spirits, and they're able to tell exactly, pinpoint where these locations are, where to find the minerals, where to find the specimens, or where to find the gateway to Argoth, or whatever it is, Stargates. And I remember something very, very clearly. In 2016, if my memory serves me correct, Mr. Putin was talking about somewhere in Ukraine, and I think it was Crimea. They was talking about on the shoreline, they found ancient pyramids. And they even made claiming that it was under the water that predate, that are very beyond even the Giza pyramids, right? And he made a claim. He said, whoever controls the AI and whoever controls this ancient knowledge will control the world. So, David, are we at the cusp of these ancient portals opening, and has there been a deal made by the powers that be, Ephesians 6, as the angels or the devil himself made a deal, and they're going full bore for it now to literally outrun God, build an artificial Tower of Babel, build something to the magnitude or even better than what they did at, their imagination. They can do anything they can since the days of Nimrod. Are we looking at something like that now? And that's where my mind's going. Is all these folks on the same page and going for it because they know that they can't run from God now? They know that they can't hide from the mountains. They know the giants are there. They strategically know that the adversary is there and the giants are going to come, and they're not going to be respecter of persons. They're going to go, if they smell flesh, they're going to go for it, right? So I'm really thinking that they're really pushing that transhuman phase and really trying to become a little G God. That's my take. And I'll give the floor back to you.
Well, what I believe that AI is connected with the real. I believe that. And I had no idea you were going to talk about something that took place in the 1500s. And I got to push you just a little bit here. Spell it out, because this is amazing with what I'm getting ready to talk about. I had no idea you were going to say that. But spell it out, and I know this involves speculation, but what do you think happened here in the 1500s as it relates to Greenland and the subject we're talking about?
So, David, what a big question. We heard the testimony from David Wynn Miller, and he's talking about a weather machine. There's lands, even the 1500s, when they looked at Antarctica, there was tropical landmass. And if I remember correctly, Greenland was not as snowy as it is, and Iceland wasn't either in that 1500 map. So it's almost like something happened that changed the paradigm, changed the atmosphere, changed the way the ground, even all the animals, the Exodus, they had to be moved geologically, had to be moved to different places. So it's almost like something phenomenal happened. Something either came from the earth, above, like they keep talking about the Three-Eye Atlas. Something spectacular changed the paradigm shift in the 1500s. And I don't know if it's got to be all spiritual. It's beyond the flesh narrative, but something supernaturally happened. And I think the Knights of the Templar and those guys back in the day, they was guided by certain folks that, when you think about, there's a certain other group too that it's slipping my mind in the forgotten, there's some forgotten books, but there's something there, David, that's substantial, that's happened and shifted our paradigm until where we're at today. And I think there was more on the earth back then, even the 1500s. So there's a lot of tropical climates, And I think even then back then, they knew that people lived underneath the ground. And they've even speculated that today. They're saying there's underground tunnels and underground cities, and there's people that are literally living vibrant lives underneath the ground. So what if the 1550s, 1580s is like a point, a data point where there's advanced technology and somebody threw out the knowledge to somebody, kind of like we referred to Tesla, had some help from a higher power? Or is it a higher power? Is it something that's underneath the earth? So there's my speculation on it, David. Is it something on a level of weather modification, energy, or feeding off these ley lines we've referred to many times, David? So I think it goes back to ancient Atlantean. I think there's Lemurian technology involved. I could speculate all day long, but I think there's something here that they all knew and they came into agreement, and something shifted in the 1500s. That's my take.
Well, I believe that this is something that it's certainly spiritual, but I think it could be awesomely physical also. I think we have evidence here of a reset of a civilization. We have evidence here of a civilization in Greenland that as late as the 15th century was obliterated and covered up. Now, I had no idea Brian was going to say that, but this book here is entitled Mysteries of the Far North by Jacques Privat. And in this, he talks about on page 289, he says this date, 1408, and this event were long regarded as the last known news of Greenland. From this time forward, there was an absolute information blackout and suppression of news coming out of Greenland. And it's even known as that time where the news stopped. It wasn't the day the music died, it was the day the news stopped. Now, what this man speculates, and I think it's part of the answer, but probably not the whole answer, but during the dark/Middle Ages, the Catholic Church had a strong hold in Greenland. They pretty much controlled the culture. And then came the Vikings. And the Vikings burned the churches, they slaughtered the priests, and they literally wiped out that entire civilization. Now, what this man's theory is that he believes that the conspiracy and the shutdown of the information comes out of the Vatican. And he believed that it was embarrassing to the Catholic Church because they basically, and there wasn't but about 10,000 people living in the whole place then, but it was controlled by the Catholic Church as far as its religion and culture. The Vikings come in and totally obliterate it. So this would have been embarrassing to the Vatican that, boy, we had our Catholic culture and now the Vikings wipe it out, and we don't want to admit that, boy, we got slaughtered here and replaced with pagans. So therefore, he believes that for this reason, the Vatican, beginning in the year 1408, and it continued after that no news come out of Greenland. They shut it down about what was going on in the culture and the whole thing. And I think this is certainly part of it. But what we're seeing here is an entire and boy, the Catholics, we don't want to confuse that with Christianity and their esotericism, as we see with the Lucifer telescope and their obsession with it. But there's evidence here of a reset, of the wiping off of a civilization, the suppressing of the knowledge of it. And I suspect here, Brian, that there's more to this reset than just the embarrassment of the Vatican. I have no reason to doubt the Vatican was behind it, but I think there could be some really deeper implications here.
Wow, David, I didn't even know he was going to go down this rabbit hole, man.
I had no idea you was going to say that, but boom, look at this.
Here we go. So what's blowing my mind, it's amazing me too, just having this conversation live with you right now, is a lot of Indian mounds that I've looked at, even in our area and all over the earth. They date back like 500 years, 800 years ago. There's like this time frame where there's a gap in time. It's really strange. And so let's have fun here. So the Vatican is built on a fortified star fort. We've talked about this many, many times here on the channel. But David, the most profound amount of star forts are the Great North. You know, all the way up through Russia and all the way up, there's all these star forts, right? And I remember thinking about the 14 to 1500s, people would literally establish them. They would say, well, we just established them. And they were like pre-existing. They built a fortification on it. So let's have fun here, David. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be when the coming Son of Man. You think about there was giants in the earth in those days and also after that. Let's have fun here. What if this is an ancient gateway, and it's literally the access point to what we refer to the whole entire time at the Hyperboreans, and every now and then this gateway opens and there's a purging. Now hear me out. So we've talked about this one show. There was a show we did about Warcraft. Remember the movie Warcraft that came out in 2016? Yes, so the troll-like giant creatures would fight the humans, and that was in the medieval times when the plot, and that's a video game and what have you, another video game. But what if periodically the resets happen and it all associates with that great focal point of this Greenland area? So what if? And that could really take it to a whole nother level as far as giants in the earth. And then you talk about Venezuela, they're giants in the mountains. And what if there ever so often there's this great purging or great something that's a national security risk now, and there's giants that are going to be coming throughout the earth? Because I remember I've heard many people out there, there's some big heavy hitters out there that have referred to Argentina, the tunnel system that reaches from South America to the tip end of, you can go all the way to Florida. I've heard all kinds of stuff, Antarctica, everything. And they always claim that the giants would come at access point and have full reign to go to America and South America. So hypothetical, what if the Earth's energies and this three-eye atlas, and it's like a focus point? You know, there's this sun worship, the moon worship, there's all these cosmological worship, and what if there's a geophysical event getting ready to happen? That's why you have these nuclear physics. There's people getting taken out. Let's just use that term. What if there's something to it, and we just don't get we're not getting the whole story? And what if the sons of God are really playing a little mind game again, but these Gilberine, these giants of old, they're reawakening, and that's why there's these periodically great resets that we've been referring to here. But what if Trump knows this and he's going for it? What if he's just trying to shut down the gates of hell? Like literally, let's just, let's give him a little credit. What if he knows this and he's trying to really keep everything back? What if there's something supernatural and he already knows? What if? It's just what if. What if this is all while the UFOs, the orbs are coming out of the woodwork and all this so-called secret space program? What if it's all collaborated to one focal point here in 2026 or whenever it's getting ready to erupt, David? And then it makes you think, why did the Vatican build on a fortified star fort? Well, military, you have literally high elevation. You can see you got a fortification, and those walls are very high, and they have their own army. So the Vatican already knows what's going on, and they're just secretly, they just kept it all to themselves. I get it, but it was so profound to me when I found out there's so many. I mean, David, there's hundreds to thousands of star forts out through the Black Sea, all the way up to Great North, all the way reaching to Greenland. I mean, David, what do we got here, man? Something of ancient days, and we're just now catching up.
You're absolutely spot on, Brian. Now, somebody in the chat spot on too, and it's went so fast I can't see who said that, but somebody in the chat said pretty much that the key to understanding the connection in the 1500s was through John Dee. And bless your heart. I'm going to read something here. I'm going to go back to this book, The Golden Thread, Esoteric Hitlerism by Miguel Serrano. I'm going to read something here from page 34. John Dee, an extraordinary alchemist and English mathematician during the 16th century, which would have been the 1500s, said that the earth was not round. Okay. but concentric at the polar caps. He said that according to mathematical calculations, the Earth was not solid, but was a series of spheres superimposed, which made it possible to communicate between the spheres. He tried to convince Queen Isabel of England to take over Greenland because this land gave access to a parallel universe. Woo! Oh my goodness. We're not done. It says John Dee received these revelations by concentrating on a black mirror, a black sphere that is located today in the British Museum. It is said that John Dee could communicate with extraterrestrials from Hyperborea, beings from inside the earth, and beings from Venus, the morning star. The angels, according to Dee, could pass from the present into the past or into the future. Could this be how the Baron von Trump literature was written? But this is wild, and this is wild. And, you know, facts are facts. In the 1500s, John Dee tried to persuade the Queen of England to take Greenland because it had an entrance to a parallel universe and into Hyperborea. What can we say about this, Brian?
David. Well, here we go.
We
folks.
told y'all we needed to do another Greenland show. That's right. We have so much stuff coming out. Yeah.
Woo!
My goodness.
So I know a little bit about this, actually. So it's kind of ironic here we are referring back to a TV show or a movie. David, there was a black-like device, like a mirror, in Stargate SG-1 series. And when they touched it, they automatically teleported to a alternate or a different world. Straight up. And, you know, if you look at that Stargate SG-1, it was literally filmed in the Cheyenne Mountain. That's a military facility. That's legit, folks. You can go look that up. And so there's that. So just that's a little, you know, it's not fact stuff. It's just all make-believe on a TV show. But here's something that I really gravitate to. Have you ever heard the term, David, time mirrors? Time mirrors. So literally they just had, I did a show a couple years ago on this. I think it was like 2023, maybe kind of the second quarter of 2023, maybe. And there was some scientific research that came out on that, and I'm kind of looking it up on the fly here, but they're talking about certain types of metal, the metal material. There was something to do with electromagnetic wave. It hits the interface, and it didn't bounce off the surface, and it reversed time. Like, it was like reversing time, David. Like something to do with electromagnetic field. And they call it the rewind effect. If you could see yourself in a time mirror, you wouldn't see your face, you would see your back. And if you spoke into it, your voice would come back to you in a reverse. And then like a tape being rewound, you know, hello cassette tapes. And then they was talking about it. This isn't like time travel, but they said it's development for 6G. So did you hear me? 6G. Wireless communications and ultra-precise radar to undo signal distortions. So, David, we got us something here. We're treading the fence tonight, folks. We're treading the fence, getting ready to fall off into the ocean. But we're going to stay strong here, David. There is such thing as that, and that's where my mind went to. So, if there's anything to this, what you referred to in this book, if there's anything, I swear up and down, I shouldn't say I swear, but there's folks out there that have this technology at their fingertips, okay? Whoever the powers that be have paid top dollar, and they probably have this technology. So whatever they've done, re-engineer it and reverse it, what do you want to bet me they've integrated into their so-called space programs? What do you want to bet?
And what we see here, and that Stargate Black Mirror, that is verbatim based upon the black magic rituals of John Dee. What we're seeing here in the science falsely so-called is the convergence of black magic and science falsely so-called. And the the scientists have always been the priest of the New World Order. And we know, and we've talked, just like we mentioned in the broadcast earlier, Mr. Darwin. Mr. Darwin, his lies about evolution have infused the minds of the world with lies that keep them from seeing the biblical truth. This is just one of the many. Biblical cosmology was another thing. And also there was references just in this literature tonight. John Dee did not believe in a globe Earth, neither did Mr. Hitler, and they understanding the truth enabled them to make some extraordinary breakthroughs. And the reason why the powers that be want us to believe lies is so that people cannot achieve the truth and to cover their tracks on what they are really doing. And the trail here after a while, I tell you what, we are so far down the rabbit hole that about 20 feet back, I saw the rabbit and he died of a heart attack about 20 feet back. But these things are facts that are undeniable, that weave together an intricate scenario that is absolutely mind blowing. It goes from the political realm to the predictive programming in the scientific realm. Um, it is just, really, what can you say, Brian? But the rabbit's dead. What are your thoughts here, my friend?
Well, Bugs Bunny is jumping out of the rabbit hole and probably going to find him a Vimana and take off across the seven seas to go across the ice wall past this point. So, yeah, Looney Tune world, here we come. But, yeah, David, this is when it's like the fringe topic you was talking about earlier. It's when you have this, you got pseudoscience. We got stuff here that's like, ancient knowledge of the angels. We got human interaction. We've got the Tower of Babel, probably techniques. We got everything under the sun. It's all coming to our focal point, and it's transitioning to this day. I mean, literally, we're like right 2026. I mean, 2025 was insane. 2026 is probably going to be like sci-fi on steroids, looking like something off Minority Report. Who knows? Good Lord help us. That's all I got to say. I think that we need to really be prayed up and put the full armor of God on. We've said that many times here on the channel, but my goodness, David, rabbit hole we go. But yes, sir, just we got a few more things to talk about. But David, whoo, I mean, let's get back out of the rabbit hole and try to come back to reality if we can. But yeah, Dave, I'm loving this one tonight.
I am too. And we do have a few more things to talk about here tonight. And I'm going to ask right now if you have enjoyed anything, and I mean anything, maybe just the itsy bitsy bit of this broadcast tonight. We're going to ask you to help us out. And on the count of three, to do the Carrico Crush and hit that like button. Help us out tonight. 1, 2, 3. Boom, hit that like button and let's send this hurtling through the algorithms. But Brian, go right ahead and let's go ahead and touch on what we need to touch on here. Go right ahead, sir. Yes, yes, let's do. And I have this book here, and it's called Trump the Messiah and the Third Temple. And this is basically apologetic that is being raised by people in Judaism and in the Hebrew root movement that are saying that it would not be against Judaism or Christianity for Donald Trump to be the Messiah. Now, obviously, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that, not one itsy bitsy bit. But this is what it says here in this book. It says, therefore, the possible designation of Trump or any other leader as Messiah of the Third Temple should not be seen as a contradiction to Jewish theology. Instead, it can be interpreted as a continuation of the story of redemption, where God in his sovereignty chooses whomever he wishes to carry out his plan. Now, also, and that's pretty big stuff. That's pretty big stuff, talking about, and there's been a lot of talk about this. We went into a lot of the documentation on this of people wanting to proclaim Mr. Trump the Messiah. Also, there has been a lot here recently, a lot of people and a lot of whistleblowers that are saying that Mr. Trump is going to bring about disclosure, that he will be the one that will unveil the truth about what they'll probably call the alien presence, but what we know as the Nephilim presence. But one thing that Mr. T doesn't suffer from is a small ego or a low opinion of himself. Could it be that Mr. Trump could actually see himself as fulfilling these roles of actually being the one to um, perhaps be the biggest figure in history of all time, the Messiah, the third temple to bring in disclosure? Could it be that within Mr. Trump and his healthy ego, that these things might be a possibility that we're staring in the face right now?
David, I have to agree with you 100%. I think, like we've alluded to through this whole program, Nikola Tesla technology, his uncle, and I think Mr. T has a lot underneath his belt, so to speak, and I think he knows a lot about a lot of things. I think he's very well versed into understanding, and he's made very, very straightforward claims talking about literally Air Force and fighter pilots, talking about there's long haired, tall, like looking like Thor people that he's talked about, and he's seen, just talking about their testimonies. And he says, well, I don't know if there's something like that out there, but I think there is. He's alluded to that in some podcasts and going out there and put himself out there on the internet of things. But I think Mr. T knows a lot, and he's not letting on what he knows too much, I think, and he's not letting it all out. I think he's just barely scraping the surface of what he really does know, and he's just he's taking back some land. I mean, he's just taking it, and everything that he's doing, he has a plan. I just don't know what it is. I don't know. I'm kind of neutral on the whole thing, really, but I'm praying that God. I know we automatically have to really just focus on God, and really we don't need to trust any man. Really, we don't. I mean, that's what the Bible says: trust no man. Study thyself and be approved, and literally walk in faith, and let the Holy Spirit guide you in truth, and be truthful, not be, and do everything we can to show what we know and do the right thing and do it like we're doing unto the Lord. And that's what we're all about here at FOJC, and that's where I'm at. But Mr. T, we'll have to see how he plays all this out, but I think he really would be, David, a good candidate to be the one that really, says, hey, we're not alone, or whatever this is. The Draconians, the Palladians are here. The Thor-like blonde-hair, blue-eyed creatures are here. People are here like the days of Admiral Byrd. I really do think that they're getting ready to do some type of, it's not going to be catastrophic disclosure. I think we've literally tonight even thrown out some nuggets as far as disclosure commentary, but I think it's really a go time now, David. I really do think that, and I think Trump is trying to stay ahead of it technologically, and I think that's what he's referring to, the Golden Dome across the America, to secure something because something is coming. But if you look that up, Brother David, about the Golden Dome, that's already been worked on for a while now. I don't even know. There might be even close to completion. I don't even know. But there could be something that is going to be so insane that he really wants to protect America from something. And I don't really know if it's just little toy missiles that they're referring to. I think it's something even more than that. I think it's fallen angel knowledge or fallen angel tech. And Trump knows this. I really do think that there's something here. I know we can speculate all day, but I think he might be that UFO president, the one that brings in the UFO disclosure and brings up the fallen angels, or however he brings it up. But we will see. We will see. We will see. Will it be brought with war, or will it be brought with peace? Well, we will have to see.
One other thing that plays into this whole mysterious scenario as we talk about all these things that begins to make more sense, that it is impossible for an ordinary citizen to buy land in Greenland. If you had all the money in the world, you couldn't go up there and buy an acre. It is all government controlled. And, I guess that they got to be careful where they let people go. And if you're rich enough to be in the Freedom City, you can avoid such things as that. But the average person, you cannot buy land in Greenland.
So,
But
yeah, since I didn't mean to interrupt you, but to bring
go
this
right
up,
ahead, Brian.
when you have 57,000 to 60,000 people that live in Greenland, if you do the math on this, David, and they're floating around the idea of giving away 10 to 100,000 per person for like real estate bargains, literally, David, the total payment would roughly come around, guess how much? $6 billion if being viewed in some of the administration of it's called the real estate bargain to secure the island's vast rare earth. $6 billion for minerals and strategic Arctic position. I mean, David, unbelievable. And then there's this other term they're using, the carrot approach. It says the carrot, talking about Bugs Bunny, right? They're following the rabbit down the rabbit hole with the carrot. But the carrot approach is this is being framed as a way to replace the annual $600 million subsidy that Denmark currently provides to Greenland, effectively attempting to outbid the Danish government for territory's favor. So, David, $6 billion just to throw at them. You know what I'm saying? So they're willing to dump that much currency. It's go time, folks. It's go time. That's all it is. There's something here that's way beyond the vanity of paper mache money and gold and silver. They're going for it, David. There's something way beyond. This is the holy grail. Has to be. It has to be the golden nugget up on the high mountain.
The golden nugget in the golden age. Welcome to the golden age, my friend. There we go. And the most important thing we could say to you this evening is that if you're listening to this broadcast and you don't know Jesus, you can, before you go to bed tonight, if you are willing to repent of your sins and believe that Christ died for you and that his death upon the cross is payment for your sin debt, repent and believe the gospel. Give yourself to Jesus right now, and you don't have to go to bed tonight without being born again and having eternal life in Christ. And if you do that, and if you pray that prayer, God be merciful to me, a sinner, write to us and let us know at Followers of Jesus Christ, Post Office Box 671, Tell City, Indiana, 47586. We really appreciate it. We want to thank each and every one of you for joining us for this broadcast tonight. And a thank you to Bill for moderating, as always. A big thank you, Bill. And there is our address. Thank you, Brian. And any final thoughts as we wrap this broadcast? And I really enjoyed this broadcast tonight. It really took some twists that really surprised us as we began to go over this. Some really phenomenal things here came out tonight. It really, really did. So what are your thoughts here tonight, Brian, as we bring this broadcast to a close?
Well, David, I just want to say this real quick. I just want to say thank you all so very much for being part of the FOJC community. All walks of life that came tonight. I've seen a lot of new viewers and new listeners that was here tonight. Please return if you want to, if you like this content. We always do a wide variety of controversial topics and conspiracy topics, but the one thing that we hold straightforward to is the doctrine of Jesus Christ. And that's what we're all about here at FOJC Underground Church. And then also, just a shameless plug here, if you want to check out Visual Disturbance channel, that's where I'm at. That's my platform, Visual Disturbance, but we're associated here with FOJC, and I'm very thankful for that, and thankful for Miss Donna and David. If you want to check that out, the link is not in the description, but just type in Visual Disturbance at YouTube, Visual Disturbance, it'll pop up, and you'll find me there. And I talk a lot about a lot of variety of different things. So I would like to see you over there if you get an opportunity. If you, I would love that. And it, like I say on the channel all the time, I thank you all. This is like therapy for me. It's an honor to be able to speak. It's like literally, even though there's some dark stuff we talk about, it's just so awesome here to be co-hosting with Brother David, and it's an honor. But I would also say this. I would say, just to conclude what we talked about tonight, I said, David, whenever I said this years ago, and I remember doing some shows back in the day, a couple of years back, and I said, if they ever come across the airwaves and say that Project Stargate, if they ever talk about Project Stargate of any shape or form, I said, I'll fall over my seat. And sure enough, Project Stargate is a thing now. And they implemented that here with a 500, was it $500 billion infrastructure, I think, with the AI mechanism. So when I heard that, I said, we are in the time of either, I've seen some people in the chat, deceitfulness, turn your discernment meter on. Whatever's going on is way beyond where we're at. I mean, this has been planned for probably upteen amount of generations, probably centuries, back to what we referred to earlier, pre-Adamic or antediluvian realm. And here we are stuck in it. But I would just say this again, like we said earlier, put the full armor of God on and stand in truth with Jesus Christ, and don't be deceived by these familiar spirits, these things that have been preying upon your family tree line and trying to get you to turn and twist and do unbelievable things. Try your best to stay as a good human and follow the walk of Jesus Christ and those precious words of Jesus, and hang on to his garment, literally, and try to steadfast in the midst of the darkness of this world. Don't go outside. Don't put black residue all over you and jump down a tunnel. We do not want you to do that whatsoever. That would be dark. So, welcome to the Twilight Zone, folks, but it doesn't mean we should be in disarray. And God has a plan for all things, and the end is not yet. The end is not yet, and we should be very thankful that we've been able to make it here at this point of entry and be able to speak and preach the gospel here on this platform. And that's all it's about here at FOJC. And then this world, too, I can't believe, Dave, we're still able to preach the gospel in 2026. And what an honor that is to be able to stay in the trench with Jesus and shout to the rooftops that Jesus is King. And what an honor it is, David. So I'll give the floor to you and David. End us out of here. But, folks, hit the like button, share this thing out. We really would appreciate it here. It helps with the algorithm. But, Brother David, go ahead and end us out here on the Sunday Night Live here on the Greenland and Bust.
All righty. Well, I'm just glad that we got through this broadcast without that guy on the bobsled. He was right after me and Brian through the whole broadcast, but he didn't catch us. The rabbit died, but Brian and I didn't. So, Lord willing, we'll be back next Sunday night, 7 p.m. Central, for Sunday Night Live on FOJC. And until then, a big high five and good night, everybody, from FOJC Radio Sunday Night Live. God bless you.